Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Exploring Sacred with your show host, Denise. It is good to have you with me tonight. Hello to everybody who is already in the chat room. It's good to have you there. Let me take a look here. Hey, Katie Battle. It's good to have you in the chat room tonight. Rob, Kendall, good to have you in the chat room as well. Thank you for joining me. I think tonight's show will be an interesting one. Hey, CJ. It's good to see you as well. Sonia, Cindy Lynn. Oh, good evening. Hi. Good to have you here. Hey, Cal. Hi, Lily. Oh, what a day it has been. It's been a Gathering Thunder Foundation day, followed up by clients and a quick bite to eat. And here I am. Hey, Robin. It's good to have you here. Hey, Marilyn. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the chat room. Welcome to the chat. It's good to have you all here. Yep, Gathering Thunder Foundation. We're getting ready to have quite a fundraiser with our native relatives from all across Turtle Island, from the Diné to the Arapaho will be represented in the fundraiser. So selling some pretty amazing Native American art, beadwork, leather work, cedar woodwork, all kinds of amazing things, and more details about all of that will be coming up. But today, Betty Davis and I were right at it, sorting through dozens upon dozens upon dozens of beautiful items that are donated. Were donated completely, created and donated by the artisans themselves, all to raise money for the Mina Ode camp. It's a fasting and release camp. So it's a camp where you can go to fast, to release in sacred ceremony, and good things happen. So, Kelly, yeah. Yeah, the pieces are absolutely spectacular. So for those of you that are not accustomed to what I'm talking about, there is a Gathering Thunder Foundation Facebook page and a group page here on Facebook. Check it out, because day by day we're going to be adding pieces of Native American art, and in all of its forms, some beautiful leather, and just too much to mention, frankly, so check it out there. But every penny of every ounce of every dollar we receive through this fundraiser will go to Mine Ode Camp. And there will be two camps, one in the spring and one in the autumn. And we're hoping to fully fund both of those camps for all of those people that are going there to fast and to heal and to release trauma. And it's an honor and a privilege to do so. Hey, Meg. Yeah. The cedar chest is absolutely beautiful. I purchased a ribbon skirt today. I did, made by Betty herself. So it's all about healing. Mine Ode, good heart gathering. The good heart gathering to release, to fast, and be with your soul and with your spirit in a good way. Healing that way. Domestic trauma, PTSD, all those things. So, hey, Lady Hawk, Cheta Wian is in the house. Cheta Luta Wian is in the house. And all right, so tonight we're going to talk about unseen worlds. And I'm in one of those moods where you kind of get, hey, Jocelyn, you're a little bit giddy and kind of giggly about stuff and you're not really sure why. I think because it's been one of those days, you know, the minute your feet hit the floor and you're off running and moving and shaking. And hey, Lisa. So this is a conversational show, you know that. So I've got my specs on so that I can read comments and your questions. Tonight we're going to talk about worlds unseen and what that is, who it is, who resides there, as much as we can talk about in an hour. Hey, Tracy Civic, welcome to the show. This evening, it was interesting. I was doing a session. I was in session with a friend of mine whose mother recently passed, and we began a discussion about, so what is it over there? What is it over there? meaning across the veil, outside of physicality. What's over there? What does it look like over there? How is it constructed? How does it move, and how does it have its way? And are there levels of what's over there? In my mind, I'm thinking about all of the levels and the dimensions and the reality of the unseen. I think for most people, our first foray into the unseen world is in our dream time. I think the dream time is probably the most common place that people find themselves interacting with the unseen realms. And oftentimes it's not really noticed until typically there's a nightmare or there is a dream that happens that is so alive, it is so vivid, it is so interactive that it can leave us weeping, it can leave us cheering, it can leave us frightened, it can leave us joyful, just the myriad of emotions. And people may say, well, you know, it was so real. I couldn't hardly believe that I really wasn't there when I woke up. I couldn't believe I was waking up from a dream because it was so real to me. What was I experiencing? The dream world is a very real world. And yesterday on the prayers and incantations page, I did a short little ditty about entering into the dream world. The dream world, or the world that exists when our body is supposed to be asleep, is a world that resides within our psyche, which is, of course, connected to the heart and mind of the Creator. So it is an enchanted place. It's an enchanted place that, depending on how we prepare ourselves for sleep, or maybe you don't prepare yourself at all, it is amazing the places that we can go during the dream time. One of the pieces that was brought up this evening was, you know, my mom comes to visit me in my dreams. A lot of times in the unseen world of dreams is where we can have interaction with those people that we have loved, that we have known on the earth plane, that have walked on and have gone home. And for many people, this is the first time where and when they realize maybe there's something more to dreams than I ever thought about, because I'm pretty sure that my interaction with my loved one was every bit as real as any interaction I had with them when they were still in their physical body. How does that happen? Well, when we leave the earth plane and our essence, our spirit, our soul continues on, because energy cannot be destroyed. It only shape shifts and transforms into other forms of energy, formless typically. It's still very conscious and it's still very, very intelligent. It's just devoid of this human container that we've chose to wear during the course of a human lifetime. It's when we're asleep, when the body is relaxed and we're not worried about what are the neighbors going to say, that when we enter into the dream time, we do enter into a landscape of energy. A landscape of energy, of octaves, of sound, color, and vibration that are the building blocks for the dreamscape. In the unseen world, much of it is occupied by sound, light, color, octave, mathematics, spheres of light, sound, color, vibration, mathematics, all of it, mathematically concocted, I should say. Those are the building blocks for the reality in the unseen world, according to the way that I understand it in my interplay or my inner workings with the unseen world. We know that vibration has an energy, sound has an energy, vibration and sound and color have an energy. If we alter sound frequency, the color can change. So it all interplays, the octaves of the unseen interplay with one another to create landscapes based on our thoughts and based on the consciousness of those residing in the unseen world. So what am I trying to say here is that the unseen worlds are very telepathic. They're very telepathic. They're very thought form in nature. First and foremost, they're very thought form in nature. Thought forms from those that exist in those regions, thought forms of everything that comes out of the heart and mind of Creator, and our thought forms as we interact with all of it here on the earth plane. So thought form has an octave. Thought form has color. Thought form has vibration. It has frequency. It has tones. Don't take that tone with me, people will say. All of that adds up into this wonderful alchemy of how it is that we communicate with the unseen world and how the unseen world communicates with us. This is why sometimes we can be sitting in meditation or in a beautiful space and we may hear what we in our humanness might call the songs of the angels, music of the angels, music of the spheres, perhaps as Pythagoras would have described it. It's also that region where people deep in meditation, contemplation will say that they saw colors that they've never seen in the physical world. I've never seen that color here, Denise, but when I was meditating, I saw colors that were the most vivid, the most alive. They were actually alive to me. Yeah. In the unseen worlds, because so much of the building blocks of communication is through thought form, vibration, etc., etc., the unseen worlds will speak to us in those languages of color, of thought, of music, of vibration, of energy, bursts of energy. I'm going to take a quick look here, see what's going on. I used to write computer code in my sleep, says Lisa. Had to keep a diary next to my bed because every time I got stuck on a program, I would dream the solution. Exactly. Exactly. The universe speaks in mathematics, in calculations, in frequencies and tones. And we are an amalgam of all of that in what we dreamt into being, created into being, human form. We brought ourselves into human form. Okay, I'm going to keep reading. Anybody who knows me knows that I love exactly what Lisa is talking about. Katie and her rabbit ears. Oh, funny. Rob is saying, I used to have very vivid dreams, even lucid dreams, until my first attunement to Reiki. Since then, remembering dreams at all is very hard. Interesting. So it must have been in the octaves or the vibrations of the Reiki attunement, or the person who attuned you, or something in the alchemy of the Reiki attunement. Prophetic dreams were always a bit scary for me growing up, says Cindy Lynn. Okay, now this is going to be a good conversation, everybody. You can do calculus in your sleep? Well, some people can. You know, one of my favorite historical figures is Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla. And when we look at people such as Nikola Tesla, or people who have prophetic dreams, or people who have dreams in which they enter vast mystery schools and teaching, some people will say, well, while I was dreaming, I was downloaded with all of this information. I'm not really a big fan of the word downloaded because it just conjures up something in my own mind when I hear somebody say that they were downloaded with information. But having said all of that, typically the word I would use is that I was inspired. While I was sleeping, I was inspired. While I was meditating, I was inspired. While I was praying, I was inspired. While I was in sacred ceremony, I was inspired. While I was ironing and in the zone, I was inspired. gifted with knowledge that typically, again, comes in mathematical form, comes in music, vibration, frequency in the ear. Some people mistake it for tinnitus. Sometimes it is tinnitus because we do have a human vehicle. Sometimes it is not. Sometimes it is communications and vibrations from the unseen worlds. Sonia, if I do have dreams, they seem to be rather odd or weird. Yes, and they can be rather odd or weird. I lost my keys that night. I dreamed where they were, says Jane. Yes, so all of these things are going on. In the unseen world is always communicating with the seen world. And so we're going to say that you and I are part of the seen world. The unseen world is trying to communicate with us. It's interacting with us. At the very least, it is having a life all around us and inside us. There are many names that we in our humanness give to the unseen worlds. We may call it the realms, the heavenly realms, the Shushuptic realms, the Devacanic realms, the realms of the angels. We have all of these words to describe unseen worlds. Unseen worlds are only unseen, are unnoticed by those who are not awake. And oftentimes people are awakened by the unseen worlds and they become seers, they become sensitives, become inspired. Artists become inspired all of the time. Some people may say a feeling comes over me, a feeling of ecstatic union, a feeling of dread, a feeling of fear. Where do those feelings come from? When we know that they're not part of our own thought process or any emotions that we're going through in our own lives, oftentimes we become inspired by, frightened by the unseen worlds. Those worlds that are not seen by the physical eye, but are seen by the third eye. They're felt by our clairsentient abilities, our abilities to feel, to sense. I sensed it in my gut. Denise, I had this gut feeling that something was wrong. Denise, I had a gut feeling that I needed to go left rather than right. Denise, I had a sense that my friend needed me to call her. Clairsentience. Clairvoyance is, of course, the ability to see with the third eye clearly. But what about clairaudience? Clear hearing. Hey, Erin. She's raising 3 little star baby girls. The ability to hear spirit, being sensitive. And we don't hear spirit with these ears unless it's something that is very, very loud. And, through the use of energy, they are able to force enough energy out so that it breaks through the sound barrier, and it is something that we literally hear in a room. That does happen. But most often people hear clairaudiently with the use of their inner ear, I call it, or their psychic ear. Right here, we also have wonderful vortices of energies, chakras, outside of our ears. Our whole body is covered. We don't typically talk about them, but all around our body are these wheels of energy that we're always utilizing, whether we know it or not, to give and receive information. When we are consciously aware of the fact that as sensitive beings, we are always giving off information and receiving information, we have a choice to just walk around muddled like that all the time, not taking care of our sensitivities, or to be consciously aware that we are at all times communicating not only with the seen world, but also with the unseen world. And the unseen world doesn't often have the ability to communicate as you and I are communicating right now. Rather, we become inspired. We are gifted with information. We are gifted with visuals that may come to us in mathematic equations, may come to us in color and sound. And as Sonia is saying, sometimes it may come to us in archetypes. It may be muddled. It may not be clear. And there are reasons for that. And we can talk about that later in the show. The unseen worlds, because they communicate with us constantly, I do say, and I do feel that we're always walking around in Diagon Alley. I really feel that way. We're all walking around in Diagon Alley, and everything that is going on, some of us are aware of, we're consciously aware, most people are not. How do you become aware? Well, number one, you have to realize that your body is like a psychic antenna. In other words, a soul antenna, psychic of the soul. The body is wired to be sensitive, to feel, to touch, to smell, to see, all of that, physically and non-physically. Once you become aware of that and you realize, oh my goodness, I am a sensitive being. I do feel, I do have intuition, I do have inklings. I do dream, and sometimes I remember my dreams, and sometimes in my daydreams, I am inspired. I'm inspired when I'm painting. I'm inspired when I'm writing. I'm inspired when I'm building. Whatever it happens to be. Where does that come from? How do you receive that? Once you understand that all of this is going on and you decide that you want to be consciously aware and awake, that is when the spiritual practice begins. The spiritual practice of being awake, of being aware. The difference between the person who's just kind of muddling through life and the seer is that the seer is awake. And the seer not only sees with the ajna, the third eye, but with all of his or her sensibilities and sensitivities, and nourishes them, takes care of them, studies them. Take a quick break because I know this is kind of a fun subject. We were just discussing. My psychic ears wake me up a lot during sleep time. Hey, Cynthia Jones, how are you? My friend's father came to me last night for a message about her health. He wanted her to know that the physical is fine. It's the emotional, causing the pain. Yes. So, okay. Yeah, we have to really be careful. Boy, that's a whole show in and of itself, I think, there, Rob. Okay, yes. I have had to add almost everything together to see the final numbers, like your prayer and incantations book. The page numbers ended in very cool numbers. So all of a sudden you become yes. Spirit talks to us in numerology, astronomy, all of it. And really, it all does boil down to mathematics. Everything is so beautifully timed, and well, that's a whole other subject. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of sitting here thinking to myself. Yeah. Okay. So let's go with this. As you can see, I'm really excited about this particular subject tonight. So thank you all for bearing with me. When we embark upon a spiritual practice, in other words, we are going to practice our interactions with spirit, or at the very least, being more sensitive to it. Why does anybody want to do that anyway? Why does anyone want to understand the unseen world? Well, again, oftentimes it's because the unseen world has paid a visit to us in some way. And all of a sudden we wake up to the fact that, hey, maybe there's more here going on than meets the eye. And maybe I need to find out more about that. And the study and the path ensues. And oftentimes it can take us down corridors that we never dreamed for a moment that we would find ourselves in, challenging the balance of what we were ever taught to believe about what is the world. Who is in the world? Are we the only ones in the world? When we die, do we really still exist? And who exists with us? Is it just angels and demons? Is it the realm of mythology? Is it the realm of imagination? Is it the ultra-terrestrial realms, the extraterrestrial realms, the realms of light, sound, color, all of those? are very, very real. All of those are very real. And again, oftentimes it is when one of those realms reaches out to us or to one of our children that all of a sudden we begin to take a closer look. And sometimes we can feel as though we've gone down the rabbit hole, because does it ever really end learning about it? Divine inspiration, divine messages come through most clearly when we are clear. When we are clear. When we are clear in our boundaries with spirit, when we are clear with our boundaries with people, places, things, situations on the earth plane, we become clear, we become focused, and the communication is much clearer on the other side of the veil as well. What do I mean by that? If you do not have good boundaries with people on the physical plane, you are not going to have good boundaries with people, places, things on the unseen, in the unseen world as well. Boundaries, 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 healthy boundaries. Taking good care of the vehicle that we have been given, this human body. I'm going to take a look really quick here. Please, everyone, do weigh in on this conversation. I have also had bad experiences, gone to not so very good places. Yes, absolutely. That is a good point, Dana. When we are clear. Yes, Jocelyn. Hey, Marianne. When we are clear. If we go into meditation time, if we go into ceremony time, if we go into the dream world, clouded by emotions, clouded by something maybe we saw on TV before we went to bed, clouded by judgment, belief systems, grief, abuse, drugs, alcohol, whatever it happens to be, we are not then a clear channel. We're just not. Which is why, for example, if somebody is going to come to me for a reading, to be in session with me, I certainly would not have, before Angela arrived tonight, I would not have, I've never been drunk, to be honest with you, and I know that makes me sound boring to a lot of people, but I would not be in a drunken state to give private session to anybody. I would not be stoned. I would not be high. I would not be sick in my physical body. I would not be grief-stricken, because then I am not in a good space to communicate well with the realm of spirit. Anytime we do ceremony, ritual, prayer, contemplation, meditation, and healing sessions, in order for us to be a clear instrument of peace, a clear instrument and a channel for communication, we need to be clear. We need to be clear and healthy. If I am not in a good place, something has gone on, I'm in a state of grief, or I'm not feeling well, I'm certainly not going to schedule clients. That's not going to happen. Likes attract. Likes attract. Having said that, there are times, as Cindy Lynn is saying, that we do find ourselves visiting the realms that may seem very, very unpleasant. We know that if we want to have interaction with the most pristine of spheres in the angelic realm, let's just say, or with people who have passed on, it's very important that we ourselves are in good mental, emotional, spiritual, physical shape. It's good to be that way so that we can have the same sort of dialogue and interaction with spirit. You would not want to, I don't think you would want to go to a surgeon for surgery, somebody that's going to open you up, if they didn't wash their hands, if they hadn't been to medical school, if they hadn't used any antiseptic in the room. You want to make sure that any physician that you're going to work with is going to be in a healthy way, not dog tired, not just coming off of a bender, and not dirty. The same is true being a metaphysician. A metaphysician, I believe, also should walk with those very same guidelines. So that not only when we visit the realms of angels of light, when we do find ourselves in those moments of entanglement with the darkness, or those that do the dark's bidding, we are at our optimum ability to be in our light, to be in our strength. I certainly don't want to have any dealings with any aspect of the darkness or somebody or something doing the bidding of the darkness if I am in a weakened state. I'm hoping that all of this is making sense. I get omens of people transitioning via smell. Okay, via burning apple wood and lily flowers. Okay, it used to really disturb me, says Lisa. But now I am grateful to prepare myself or be available to those around me. Yes, Spirit is in constant communication with us, whether we believe it or not. Whether it is the angelic realm, whether it is the realm of mathematics, the realm of music, the realms of art, the realms of the nature spirits, the realms of the ascended masters, the realms of the white brotherhood, the realms of pure silence. They are always speaking to us, informing us at all times. Why? Because they're part of us. We are part of that. We are also at times brought into those places that are a challenge. Carla Jo Worth. I was taught never to do ritual until I had bathed physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Yes. Katie Battle is saying, I got knocked out. Of the chat room, Katie? Or you literally got knocked out? Yes, this is why before, well, you can see kind of a rendition of my sweat lodge behind me here, right? You can see that. That's what my sweat lodge looks like. Before anyone goes into my inipi, my sweat lodge, everybody is smudged off. Everybody is smudged off. And typically, if you are here and Lily is here, Lily will do the smudging. Why do we do the smudging? So that before we enter into sacred ceremony, into the prayer, our emotions, any residue that we may have in our aura, in our thoughts, our emotions, is wiped clean. It's called wiping them down. So people are wiped down with sage. And when the stone people are brought into the inipi, typically I will put cedar. So there's always good smells and an elevated vibration, just exactly what Carla Jo is saying. So that when spirit is called into our presence, high vibration entities, high vibration angels, high vibration spirit will enter into a high vibration ceremony, into a high vibration home, into a high vibration experience. If it is a low vibration that we have set the table for, nobody being smudged, everything is willy-nilly, everything is dirty, including our thoughts, our body, our emotions, everything is muddled and mucky, well, guess what is going to join us in ceremony? Low vibration entities will not find themselves in high vibration ceremony or high vibration thought, unless it is purposefully there to teach us something. There are times when we are brought into the realms, into those realms in order to learn about the potency of our own light. which I think would make a really good show for the next time around when we're talking. Oh, how I miss Inipi. It's been way too long, says Aaron. Yeah, for sure. Well, and next time I pour one, I'll let you know. Yeah. The realms of spirit are occupied not only by those that we love who have gone home, but they are occupied by spirits that have never been in physicality. The unseen worlds are occupied by the beings of mythology, by the beings of mythology that have yet to be discovered, to be revealed. The unseen realms are occupied by what some call the fairies or the nature spirits, the sprites, the gnomes, all of those sorts of things. The unseen realms are occupied by the ultra-terrestrial beings such as the Yeti or Sasquatch. The ultra-terrestrial, extraterrestrial realms are occupied, I believe, by those star beings that take on many shapes and many, many forms. I believe that the stars are alive, and within the octaves of their vibration, of their light and sound, there are beings that reside in the octaves, the light and the sound and the colors of the stars and what they emanate. Any thoughts about any of that, anybody? Yeah. Inipi is a perfect example of spirit. When, for those of you that have been in Sweat Lodge with me, and when spirit is brought in for a healing round or the prayer round, spirit will appear in many, many forms. Spirit appears in many, many forms in a Baptist tent revival. For those of you that have ever been at a tent revival, I have. Sometimes when spirit enters into the revival tent, people can be overcome with the Holy Spirit. They can become overwhelmed by the spirit of joy, the spirit of dancing, the spirit of grief, the spirit of the angels. Whenever we call to spirit, spirit arrives from these different realms that I'm talking about. The moment that we invite it, but how are you inviting it? How have you prepared for it? Once it has arrived, what are you attracting? What are you attracting? Last week when we were all together, or the week before, we were talking about playing with spiritual fire. This week when we're all together, it's about, so what is it that we're inviting in? Light comes in many varieties and shades of light. From the brightest light that is almost unseen to the naked eye, to the darkest of light. And within the brightest bright and the darkest of the dark, there exists reality. There exists existence. Which do you choose to invite in? If you choose to do ceremony, you choose to do ritual, you choose to do the Ouija board, whatever that is for you, understand as, oh my goodness. I was just talking to Barbara earlier today, and I was asking her if the next time that I come out, if we could go visit with Arval or Ivan, Looking Horse, because we have some of the best conversations. And always when we get into these conversations, whether it's Arval or Ivan or Joaquin, they always say the same thing. These things are not to be fooled with. They're not to be messed around with. Those spirit worlds are very, very real. They're just as real as this world that we're living in physically. It's nothing to be messed around with. And if you're going to do these things, and if you're going to be with spirit in a good way. Prepare yourself in a good way. If you are going to have, a lot of people have psychic parties or they invite a psychic over and a lot of friends, and they're having cocktails and hors d'oeuvres and all of this, that, and the other thing is going on. And the psychic, sometimes they know them, sometimes they don't know them, does all of the readings, and everybody's drinking and imbibing. And a lot of times then I get a phone call or a client who shows up and says, things in my house have never been right ever since that night. Well, you were mixing spirits, for one thing, is what I call it. Don't mix your spirits. Don't mix your spirits. That's an old teaching. Don't mix your spirits. If you want to walk in the light, surround yourself with the light. If you want to take a walk on the wild side, everybody get drunk and call in spirit. That'll make sure that you're taking a walk on the wild side. Just be prepared at what's going to be left over. It'll be more than empty booze bottles and pizza boxes left in your house the next day if you've also invited spirit in any form, way, shape, or form. Being respectful of the spiritual world is every bit as important as it is to be respectful of what's going on in the physical world. That's what exists out there. It's no different really than here. Although sometimes it's kind of like that Star Wars bar scene, right, with Jabba the Hutt, because there are beings that we can encounter in the unseen world that we've never seen in our physicality, which is part of the reason why I was taught a long time ago during the course of NEP, it's always dark in there, because some of the spirits that come in, not everybody is ready to see them because they don't look like we look. Doesn't make them bad. It just makes them different. And for some people, anything that is different is scary. But I wasn't taught that angels look like that, so that's scary to me. That's just our human conditioning. That's purely our human conditioning. The bottom line to all of it is understand that likes attract. If you want to attract high vibration, be high vibration, prepare high vibration. You want to attract the lowest of the low, well, you can prepare for that as well. Just make sure that you are ready for what happens afterwards or doesn't happen afterwards. Right. Amen, says Tracy. Mixing your spirits, Long Island iced tea. Yeah, nope, none of that nope. And that's a good question, Rob. It's one thing to go to the nail salon and all the ladies, I guess, have a glass of wine or what have you, but it's something completely different to hold ceremony with everybody getting lit. I encountered a very dark soul at work one day, says Lady Hawk. What really threw me was that it was a baby about 6 months old. Was a very creepy thing. Oh. What about people who use ayahuasca saying it removes blocks to spirit? Well, we do a whole show on peyote and ayahuasca. And on the other side, in the unseen worlds, there are spirits that we need to sometimes be prepared to encounter. We need to be prepared to encounter. And so for somebody who does peyote in a ceremony or ayahuasca in a ceremony, if they have not been properly prepared, mind, body, spirit, including the third eye, all of the clairs, the results of somebody not being properly prepared to use those sorts of medicines can be catastrophic. Catastrophic. Lately, I have in my practice encountered several people having had catastrophic results from ayahuasca. Absolutely catastrophic. Whenever we do any sort of hallucinogen, whether it is natural or artificial, we begin to play with the synapses in our brain, which are connected to the synapses in our etheric body. And if you are not, to have your third eye blown wide open by ayahuasca or peyote or mushrooms, any of those sorts of things can be a lifelong journey. toward wellness if that's ever attained again. There's a reason why ayahuasca for a very long time was only ever done by the medicine people of that region of the world, because those medicine people understood the plants, the intelligences of the plants, because those plants are alive with intelligences, and understood where those intelligences were going to take them and what spirits were going to be brought to them via the alchemy of all of those plant spirits working together. And now you can go on a weekend bender. You can find anybody who will give you anything around the world and call it sacred ceremony. That is a really good question, Lisa. Thank you for asking it. And as you can tell, I kind of get on my soapbox about it, because I do know people who have done ayahuasca, and it has been something that was beneficial for them. Don't get me wrong. But they are also people who are practitioners, who are educated, who have prepared themselves for a good long time to enter into those realms. I've met people recently who literally signed up for a weekend of, hey, I'm going to go down to Peru and do ayahuasca for a weekend, who came back absolutely destroyed. Emotionally, spiritually, their psyche torn to pieces by the irresponsibility of the person doing the ayahuasca ceremony, and by their innocence in not understanding that they needed to be prepared. Some people go hell-bent for election anyway, even though they know that they're supposed to be prepared. Oh, I can do that. I dropped acid in the 70s, so I can do ayahuasca, right? No. There is a preparatory time frame for that. Years ago, when I was getting, I think it was one of the very first Sundances that I attended, one of my nephews, well, a lot of my nephews and nieces on one side of the family out on the reservation belong to the Native American Church, which is a blending of Catholicism and Native teachings. And in the center of all of that is peyote. And so they take the peyote, they call it a medicine during their meetings. And there are a variety of ways that peyote can be taken in liquid form. It can be chewed up in little granules that look like little sugar. Well, anyway, they were getting ready for a meeting, as they call it. And one of my nephews said to me, hey, Auntie, you want to come to the meeting tonight? And I said, well, I think I might come to that meeting. Actually, I'd never been to a Native American church meeting. And he said, well, are you going to do peyote with us? And I said, no, can you imagine? I looked at him and I laughed and I said, I already see spirit. I already hear spirit. Can you imagine what it would be like for me to add peyote on top of all of that? And he and my other nephew busted a gut laughing about that. Oh my gosh, Auntie, that's right. That would be a disaster for you. You don't need peyote. You already see those things. But having said that, even in preparation for those meetings, there is preparation, sacred preparation. It's not, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Let's go get stoned on peyote. I once brought a gentleman, though. See how you got me on a roll? I once brought a gentleman to the reservation that he had done ayahuasca, had been studying down in the Amazon with different shamans. And he wanted to go out to the reservation with me for a Gathering Thunder Foundation event that we were hosting out there. So he went along. He was from, I believe, the Carolinas. And during the course of us being out there, he said to me, so when do we get to do the peyote? I said, excuse me? Well, aren't we going to do peyote while we're out here? I said, did you come here to get high? Or did you come out here to experience being with, the relatives? Well, both, but I've never done peyote, and I was hoping, I was really disappointed in all of that. And I said, have you ever been prepared for those ceremonies? There's preparation for that. He said, no, I've done ayahuasca. I mean, if I can do ayahuasca, and, I smoke dope quite often, so can I just go do peyote? This is the look on my face. I said, well, number one, I don't do peyote. My relatives don't do peyote unless they're in a Native American church ceremony. And if I would have known that you just came here to get high, he was a professor, actually, at a university down south. If I would have known that you just came here to get high, I could have saved you the trip. The answer to that is no. So there are all sorts of reasons why people want to interact with those drugs, typically to have an experience with the other side. If you are not properly prepared, though, it's like this. It is no different than this. So somebody turns 21 and goes out to the bar and gets rip-roaring drunk, doesn't typically have a very good experience. Completely unprepared, never had a drop of alcohol in their lives. They go out, they get drunk, it's ugly. Ramp that up and amp that up a couple hundred times, and that's what it's like for somebody who hasn't been prepared to be in ayahuasca ceremony, to be in a peyote ceremony, or a ceremony where there are mushrooms or other hallucinogens. You have to be prepared. You have to be healthy. I'm hoping that this is making a mistake. Been there and done that, says Rob. Tracy's saying, I love you. Meg is saying, that's what I appreciate about you. Not a soapbox, Dana, just helping and teaching people to be safe. Well, I literally, a couple of months ago, met a woman whose life was absolutely, utterly destroyed because she was invited to go to a group to South America and spend a week with a shaman. And the shaman was going to, give everybody the experience of being with the ayahuasca mother, snake mother, And when this woman said to the shaman, I'm a highly sensitive woman. I've never done anything like this before. I'm looking forward to having this spiritual experience, but I'm a little bit scared because this is way out of my wheelhouse. The shaman looked at this woman and said, you know what? Either you do the ceremony or you don't do the ceremony. And whatever's supposed to happen in the ceremony is what's supposed to happen. So, sadly for her, she said, in my gut, I knew I probably shouldn't have done it. And I did it anyway because everybody else was doing it. And they were looking at me like, well, what's your problem? Are you some goody two-shoes? What are you even doing here then? She literally blew a couple of her chakras wide open and into shards. And she went from being a very successful business owner, she had her own business, very successful, to a woman incapacitated to the degree that she actually had to move back to the state her parents were living in and move in with them in her mid to late 40s. So when we talk about wanting to meet the unseen worlds with the use of a medicine, a natural medicine like that, or I had a young man say to me, Denise, I once dropped LSD because I wanted to see an angel, and I did. And after I saw the angel, then I saw a demon. And so probably LSD really isn't a good way for me to see spirit, is it? He was 17. I said, well, LSD really isn't a good way for anybody to see spirit if that's what you're looking to do. If you're looking to reach into the unseen worlds, it's something that you build yourself up to in most cases. Some people, such as myself, we were born being half in the unseen world, or 75% in the 75% in the unseen world and 25% of us in the seen world, or vice versa. Most people work their way up to it through meditation, contemplation, yoga, walks in the forest, study, prayer, all of it. They graduate and gradually bring themselves into the realm of spirit, or the realms of spirit bring them. Sometimes, again, the realm of spirit reaches out to us and says, we're here. We're here. And that sets about a quest to learn more about who was that about a quest to learn more about who was that reached out to me. What was that sign and wonder that I received? What is this inner knowing that I have? Why is it that I can see things other people can't see? Why is it I can hear what others can't hear? This is a great conversation. Sad when students are not prepared, that someone has no care for others. Yeah. Tracy Civic is saying, I know someone who blew through her crown and has never healed from it. That's right. That's right. When we're talking about introducing people, see what you started, Lisa? It's great, isn't it? When we talk about introducing people to the unseen worlds, clearly I cannot regulate who it is that's watching me right now. People come in, they watch, and either they like it or they think, oh, this isn't for me, and they whatever. However, if I am teaching a class in my school or a class somewhere else, I have to be very, very consciously aware and mindful of who is in the room. If there is one person in the room that is not prepared for what the other 90%, 99% of the people in the room are prepared for, I have an option, two options as the teacher. I have the option to talk at the level of the person who is at the lowest or just not quite there yet, that 1%, to the whole 100%, or to say to the one person, I really don't think that this class is a good fit for you. And so during the course of the break, and I have been known to do this, I will very gently say to somebody, I really don't think maybe that this is for you. And when I do a course similar that I feel that, you would have really great success with and learn from, I will let you know that. Or I guess the third option is to present the information that I know everyone else can hear and integrate and absorb to the detriment of the one person that I feel is not prepared. That's the responsibility of being the teacher. Sometimes people will come to a class and say to me, oh, I've done this, I've done that, and I have no real way of knowing that they are not telling me the full truth until I can begin to see the look on their face, the way they're positioning their body, the perspiration dripping down their face, or I just get this gut inkling that this person is not ready. That's being respectful. Same thing is true with my sweat lodge. Those of you that have been to ceremony here at INEP, not everyone is required to come inside the INEP. Some people like to stay outside and experience the unseen realms from outside the INEP. Everyone is welcome to do that. During the course of INEP, if somebody becomes uncomfortable by the heat or by what is happening, you all know, all they have to say is Mitakuye Oyasin or I need to go, please. No one is held in there past their comfort zone. If I feel as though somebody in INEP is being affected, maybe with questions, their balance is being challenged, maybe something's being brought to them that's really getting to them to their core, you've seen me address that as well inside the INEP. There is great responsibility in introducing people to the unseen worlds, even when the unseen worlds have introduced itself to them. And we must always remember that, all of you teachers out there, all of you healers out there, facilitators out there, we do have culpability. We do have. I would never for a moment think of being in a public place and walking up to somebody and saying, hey, do you know that your dead relative is standing behind you and has a really great message for you? Not in a million years would I do that. No, not everybody is ready for that. My last client this evening, she said to me, she had asked her husband to come along, and I've known her husband for a lot of years, but not in the capacity of when I'm doing my work, but as friends. And he said, I'm just not ready for that yet. Not that he doesn't believe in it, but because he believes in it so much, he knows that his soul, his emotions are not ready to sit in session. And I respect that. I respect anybody who says to me, Dana, I'm not ready to go in Sweat Lodge. Dana, I'm not ready for the next level of mediumship or angelology or rituals. I'm not ready. Is that okay? Absolutely, that's okay. There is a responsibility of the student that if a student is sitting in a class, in a ceremony, in a ritual, in a meditation, in yoga, and something is not comfortable. I've been in some yoga poses that I've had to say to the instructor, I can't do this. The same thing is true if you are a student in a metaphysical course, a healing course, ceremony, whatever it happens to be. You have responsibility to yourself and to your teacher to say, this is not for me at all. This is not for me at this time. I'm not ready for this yet. I'm going to excuse myself. The student also has culpability and responsibility to the teacher. The teacher student, the participant in ceremony, and the ceremonialist, that is a two-way street. If somebody hands all of their power, their personal power, over to a shaman, a medicine person, a healer, a teacher, there is culpability in that they handed the whole enchilada over to another person. There is culpability in that. If you're going to go, you're thinking to yourself, well, I want to go do ayahuasca. Marvelous. Research ayahuasca. Research who it is that will be performing that ceremony. Research the experience of other people. Research the origins. Research what may happen and what may be permanent. Research as a student, as a participant. Hey, it's your body. It's your psyche. It is your sensibilities. Be responsible. That's being accountable and responsible. We should never hand over all of our luggage, right? No. So it goes both ways. Lisa is saying, people want to take the short route. That's right. You get glimpses of things and then want to accelerate your abilities. It can be difficult to find teachers locally or know who to trust. I've met a handful of good teachers like you, and I've met a whole lot of bad ones. Oh my goodness. I've met some bad ones. Well, and thank you for that, Lisa. I appreciate that. As a teacher, it's something that we also begin to learn, that not everybody who comes to our classes is there for a good reason. Some people come to classes to set the teacher up for failure. Some people come to classes to challenge the teacher, to feed their own ego, to see how much they know or they think they know more than the teacher. There are lots of dynamics that go on between people in classes. And I thought, geez, long time ago now, 18 years ago, when I opened the temple within School of Sacred Studies, hard to believe it's been almost 20 years, I thought that all of my students were coming because they really wanted to have a closer relationship with the Creator and with God and their angels. And I very quickly soon found out that wasn't always the case. And as a teacher, I've been very disappointed with what people have done with what I've taught them. The old adage, if I teach you, what will you do with it, has come to haunt me in beautiful ways and in some not so beautiful ways. So this is a really great conversation about the responsibility of everyone in the realms of the unseen. To those of us helping others gradually move more fully into, and those that are seeking, because yes, you're right about that, Lisa, 1000%. Some people get a little taste of it and they want it all, and they want it all now. And when things go awry, it's not their fault. The teacher should have told me. No, common sense prevails, people. Common sense. If you're going to buy a brand new Corvette off of the Chevy showroom floor, you get a choice to break it in gently or to open that thing up the minute you get it on the road, and good luck to you. The same thing is true when opening up our psychic experiences. And so you're right. A lot of people who want to take the quick or the easy. I want the nice teacher. I want the nice teacher. I don't want the teacher that's going to take me to task, to really take a look at my reasons for being in the class or what I'm going to do with what they teach me. Yeah. Common sense is not all that common. Oh, good one, CJ. Absolutely. Common sense isn't all that common. And I found that out the hard way in spirituality. The same thing is true when going to see somebody who says that they are a psychic reader. You know, the thing is, anybody can hang a shingle out. They just can. Pretty shingle that says clairvoyant, mystic, whatever. And you can do that. But I say to people, before you just go see the person that's hanging out a shingle, for heaven's sakes, do your research. Find out who that person is who's hanging the shingle. There you go. Music is a beautiful outlet, Rob. Love what you do. Yeah. Well, and sometimes the unseen realms can be overwhelming. To your point, Rob, there are a lot of people, such as myself, or those people that are very sensitive to spirit, that numb themselves to spirit. It's the direct opposite, trying to shut it off. Artists, musicians, spiritual people, a lot of people who are always in a barrage of inspiration, communication from spirit, that are overwhelmed by it, like to numb themselves to it. You know, I have this debate sometimes with some of my friends who I love in the spiritual realm, who swear to God that if I just focus hard enough, I can turn off my abilities to see spirit. And I think to myself, like, I haven't tried that. Really? No kidding. If I think really, 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 really hard, it's just going to go away. No, not for me and not for everybody. So when somebody says, well, you can turn it off, you just have to be disciplined. You can turn it off by putting a little bubble of light. If I hear any more bubble of light stuff, I could go the rest of my life without hearing somebody say, well, if you just put a bubble of light around yourself, it'll all be okay. Look at the good witch Glinda. Don't talk to me about any glittery bubble of light or any of that other kind of stuff as a cure-all for everything. That is what we call a panacea and wishful thinking for some of us. I think most of us, frankly. We need to get really, really clear about that. So it's like, oh, well, I'm going to go downtown Grand Rapids, and rather than drive my car, I'm just going to run and hope that nobody in the traffic flow hits me, because I'm going to put a bubble of light around me. And with the bubble of light, well, I don't need my car. I'll be just fine. Anyway, that's a whole other show. We could do the bubble of light theory show. Anyway, having said all of that, for some people, there is no off switch. You learn to deal with it. And for some people, in learning how to deal with it, first they numb it. First they numb it. You can numb it with athletics, right? There's lots of ways that we numb ourselves to what is going on. Or we learn how to walk in it and be in it to the best of our ability without having to numb ourselves to it. So that, thank you for bringing that up, Rob. That is a very genuine thing to say, because there's nothing worse than somebody who is experiencing these things. And it's like, Dana, could you just be a blonde? Really? You don't need to be, well, yeah, I could do all of that, but it's just who I am to be a brunette. It's part of my nature. It's part of my nature to see spirit. It's who I am. I've learned how to live with it to the best of my ability. I've not yet had to find myself numbing from it. Learning how to cope with it has been my path. And the little bubble of twinkly lights, and I don't care if that little clear bubble is pink, green, orange, rainbow colored. Really? All right, so my mind just went off on a tangent with all of that. The unseen world requires us to take responsibility for ourselves in the physical world, first and foremost. And it requires taking responsibility and accountability for walking into the unseen worlds intentionally, in the variety of ways that we do that in our humanness, and for those of us that lead others into an awakening. We are all responsible to ourselves and to one another in that. The unseen worlds are very real. It's where we came from. The youngest people, the little kids, are the ones that still remember so beautifully well. They remember so beautifully well. We also begin to remember the unseen worlds when we prepare to go home to heaven. And all of a sudden, the unseen realms gather around us and hold us as we're preparing to leave the physical body and to go home into the non-physical worlds. The unseen world comes to us. The unseen world is there whether we see it or believe it or not. And it is to be walked respectfully, just as this physical life is to be walked respectfully. Always in matters of spirit, know who it is you're learning from. Know who it is that you're teaching. Know who it is that you're going to have ceremony with. That is being responsible. No different than learning who it is that's going to pull your wisdom teeth out, who it is that's going to perform surgery, who it is that's going to give you your OBGYN exam. Hopefully you don't just willy-nilly say, well, here I am, right? You find out. You find out. Okay. Kelly Spencer, did you see that look? That was a classic. Oh, God, I've got the look. Jocelyn. Dana, have you ever heard of Lily Dale, the psychic community? Had a very good experience there back in the 70s. I've never been, but I will say, Jocelyn, that yes, I've heard of others going to Lily Dale who reported having good experiences there in that spiritualist camp. Yeah. I've not been there myself, so I don't know firsthand. Sonia is saying, I almost had someone come clear my house, but canceled at the last minute. Just didn't feel right. Bravo. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Yes, Katie, people are attracted to shiny new things. Yeah, you know it. Corvettes have a fiberglass body. Good luck with that. You got that right. And it doesn't matter how many bubbles of pure white light you surround that brand new Corvette in. If you're going to drive it recklessly, you're going to wreck. No matter how many bubbles of light you surround this in and you drive it recklessly, guess what? You're going to wreck. That is what we call keeping it real. Yes, keeping it real. Son told me today, school is just relearning everything I have already learned. I didn't miss anything, even though he was out 5 days. Yep. Oh my. What a great conversation tonight. Next week when we pick it up, we will talk about numbing ourselves and overdoing spirit. There you go. overdosing on spirit. That's going to be the subject for next week, overdosing on spirit. See what y'all, see, Lisa? See what happened, Lisa, with your question? That's why I like to have this format with all of us friends getting together, talking about these things. This is practical stuff. People say to me, geez, you're not very, what did one person once said to me? Well, you're not very flowery about it. No, I'm not known to be flowery about most things. Tell it like it is, sister. That's right. Robin, don't you learn the best things from kids? You just do. Because their filters are off and they just remember. Love it. See you all next week. That's right. So in the interim, everybody, if you are not part of the School of Sacred Studies, Temple Within School of Sacred Studies group page, please go there, join the group. We now have a Sharing Your Gifts and Talents group page, and it is a resource. It is a resource for all of you to share what it is that you do, so that people that are looking for you and what it is that you do can find you. It's a great space to be in. Until then, everyone, shine your light. It is a magnificent moon this evening. Go spend some time with Mother Moon in the unseen terrain of your inner castle and the energy of Moon Mother. With that, everyone, blessings be. And you know what I'm going to say, because I always say it. Get out there and shine your light. The world needs it, as only you can shine it. Good night, everybody.